Good morning, everyone. It is about 10 a.m. Good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing today?
Good. Your co-chair
I'm trying
says
to see.
good.
Yeah, I'm looking to see who's we have. And I noticed that we have a couple of providers on the call. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Family Provider and Care Management Information Committee. We're glad to have you on the call with us. I am Rose Sauls. I am the co-chair of the Family Provider and Care Management Information Committee, alongside Debra Greif as
Morning.
well. Good morning. And I'm going to pass the mic to Chris, who's going to be going over the housekeeping rules with us. Chris?
Thank you, co-chairs, and good morning, everyone. As welcome again to the Family and Provider Information Committee. Before we proceed and introduce the co-chairs again, just to remind everyone, everyone's microphone should be muted, not interrupting, because anything you say today is duty noted. So please, let's also follow courtesy, respect to everyone. And just to remind everyone, you do have a microphone, you do have a camera. Please make sure you use those devices if you want your camera on. That is your choice. Microphones right now, as I said again, should be muted. In the chat, as I mentioned earlier, you can put your information, your questions or comments there, or next to it, there's a hand raise, which it looks like a smiley face. You can click on your hand raise. We will see it. Deborah Greif and Rosal will definitely see it as well. As we're seeing a lot of people coming in right now, and that's why everybody's going to hear me mention this housekeeping rules. If you have a question, you have the two options. You can put A on the chat, B on raising your hand, or C, if your question wants to be private, you want to send it to the two co-chairs, that's fine. You can send it to Rosal or Deborah Greif. But as a reminder, you, if you don't want to use your name, you can mention that to the two co-chairs as well. Also, in the More button, you will see the caption on. There is, if your caption is not on, that means you have not clicked on it. Please click on the More button, and you will see this picture right here with an arrow pointing to caption. The caption could be adjusted to your size, large, medium, or small, as we are using it. And also remind you, the hand raise is also inside. Also to remind you, if you know someone else is supposed to be at this meeting, and note the information is also on the DD Advisory Council's website, you can also use your little lowercase I circle, and you can get the meeting ID number right there, including the phone line. And I remind you, phone lines could be used, but I remind you, it's *6# to mute, *6# to unmute. Please, let's make sure we follow these procedures and we can do the meeting and we can do this information as quick and run on schedule. So that is the housekeeping rules. And I remind everyone, unless you are the co-chairs, the head vice chair DD Council or the head chair of the DD Council should be the only ones to interrupt at this time. So as I'm going to move on, and just remind everyone before I introduce our two young ladies, after this meeting is finished at 11, the Legislative Committee will be joining at 11 o'clock on the same Ring Central 2. That will be Lucina Clark and Marie Wilson. Both, Lucina Clark is My Time Inc. Maria is from CP Unlimited. So they will be joining this in the end of this Provider Care Management Information Committee. So please, as a reminder, and please everyone, as a reminder, if you have announcements or questions, please make sure you visit the both councils because they both have the same schedule, which we are working together as one. So please visit the either websites to check the meeting dates for other subcommittees, the full DD Council or the full Advisory Council. And if you have any questions or want to make sure that you're on the mailing list, you can always email Brian or Deborah, who's the chair also of the Advisory Council. But please note the meetings are always available on the websites. So now, ladies, Deborah and Rose, it is your turn to shine.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Once again, everyone, we're glad to have you. Debra and I glad to have you in the Family Provider Information Care Management Committee. I'm just checking. I just saw we have a care manager, CCO is getting on the call right now. Again, I just wanted to highlight that this meeting, we meet every second Wednesdays of the month at 10 a.m. always, as Chris has mentioned, and we are meeting virtually. We have not decided yet if we want to have this meeting in person, but for now we are meeting virtually until further notice. But again, we want this meeting to be as productive as we can possibly have it, to make sure that we're giving you all the information, all the tools, all the updates that are happening in the provider world as well as in the families as well. But if there are any questions, concerns, if you are on the call that you are hearing and there are topics that you are hearing that you think might be a great topic to have that conversation, on this call, please let myself and Debra know, because we want to make sure that the time that you are spending here, that hour, that you're getting some information that you can take back, whether it's to the provider or the providing support to a family member. Just so you know, how do we come up with topics? We ask for the care managers, the CCOs, to provide us with topic information that we felt like would be beneficial for both families and providers. And Deborah and myself, we will meet and have a meeting to kind of decide, okay, what topic are we going to bring to family? What are some of the concerns that family members are highlighting? And Deborah sat on many different other committee meeting, and she hears a lot from family members. And one of the hot topics right now that we are hearing is about family reimbursement. So today we wanted to take the time out to kind of meet with you and talk a little bit about the ADM that came out for family reimbursement, and see if anybody has any questions, concerns, comments, or any feedback, or anything that you are hearing, from other providers or from families, because especially with the care managers, you have a lot of contact with the family members, and we want to be able to support them. And if we don't have the answers, believe me, we will go back to OPWDD, to someone that does have the answers, and to be able to answer your questions and give that feedback back to you. And if we need to also have someone from OPWDD come and present, we will also look for that person to make sure that we get the right person. So we make sure that you are getting the right information, throughout this meeting. All right. With all that said, Deborah, I don't know if you want to go next.
Yes, I will. Thank you so much, Rose. I appreciate. Good morning, everyone. And yes, don't be shocked. Yes, I did dye my hair pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. This is my way of supporting. I've had family members with breast cancer. Thankfully, they survived. But I do know in our population of families, many parents, especially women, and there's some men who do get breast cancer. So this is my way of showing support too. Now, what Rose Saul said was very important. And yes, I know now before you all complain about me being so-called a broken record, I want you to understand that when the ADM reimbursement first came out and it was presented at the statewide, I am going to demonstrate the mouths of everyone. Okay, because that will save us time and I don't have to go. Were we upset? Beyond upset. And now, then we discussed and it was decided by, and I did not vote for this, but it was decided that since they said I'm a fearless warrior, I was asked if would I would chair the ADM reimbursement committee. Now, Chris is going to put up the list, and before I explain this, let me say this straight out. On the statewide committee, especially with the ADM reimbursement, I do have, besides myself, 2 members from from New York City region. We're considered Region 4, and it's the Bronx and Manhattan. So it'd be Tina Vale and Mary McGuire-Weaver. Also, we have the co-chair of the family support statewide is Gail Pato, which besides being a parent works in the profession. And Gail, and we do have Crystal Vossler from out west in the Region 1. Now, I'm really glad something that we all discussed this and we realized we can't just complain. We have to show them why things that they put on the non-allowable list had to be removed to be put on the allowable list. What we're doing is justifications. We're not just saying well, I want this just for that reason. No. Why do we need it? Why is it important? What help will this give to the parents slash family members who are caring for their, whether it's their child or a family member at home with them? And we did what was called, we're doing justifications, because when we did the justifications, we were able to move a lot of things onto the allowable list. Now, one big example, noise canceling headphones. Why? I know many of the children who have developmental abilities get distracted or don't want to hear can't handle the noise. It could be from an ambulance. It could be somebody beeping, a car alarm. We don't know. I'm not going to diagnose this. This is not for that. It's to make sure that if the parent has to take the child somewhere, or you have a respite worker coming to take the child, they're not going to go screaming or going like this because it hurts. So we were able to do that. There are other things we have now. We realize there's more than one thing to justify. And we have to let them know, how is this affecting the family? So, Chris, go down a little bit. Now, as you see, anything highlighted in yellow is stuff we were able to get back onto the allowable list. Another one was museum membership, except a bunch of us are not too thrilled because they left out the zoos and aquariums, which you can say are outdoor museums. Many of our children love going to them. Also, I'm going to include the farm programs that they do have out in Nassau and Suffolk County that do take, and our kids have gone there, and I do know young children in the autistic spectrum were able to be in with the general classes, and I did witness this out in Suffolk Farms, and I appreciate how well the staff worked with the child. So we had to do what we're doing is, if you see here, like indoor outdoor swing, we explain why it's needed. Expenses, sport lessons, like you see skiing was added. And then you see over here, sensory items, indoor outdoor swing. Many of our kids like to move back and forth like that. If that makes them happy and keeps them, the parent can do things and they can be, if that calms them, that's fantastic. You have, as I said, noise canceling air coverings. Sensory activities diagnosis as related to IDD. Chris, can you go down a little bit more? Okay. These are the not, stop, go back up, right there, stay there. Okay. Now, we're also going to show you the section G and H in a moment. But you see how we're trying to, like, supplement slash overcount to provided by insurance by a clinician, but then denied by insurance as related to their IDD diagnoses. Replacement slash repair of prescription glasses or hearing aids if they're denied. We're working as doing clothing, especially our kids, many of them are incontinent or from behaviors. They like to rip, chew, eat their clothing. Oh well, it's not great. Health, safety, environmental functionalities like winter jackets, snow boots, and there's other items, as you see, that are listed, and we're trying. We even got we've gotten beds. We got the bed covers, because when you get the mattresses, what I did to make sure it was justified was I was able to get a hold of the regulations from New York City's Department of Health in regard on what to do to prevent getting bed bugs or other, to protect the mattress. And I'll give you a brief part of what the guidelines say. One, after you first have to remove it, you have to place in a special bed bug cover. It has to be taped closed, in the infested mattress slash box cover spring. Both of them have to be removed. And if you have to remove the frame, same thing. Then to replace it, they tell you which to place in these bed bug covers you're to tape the zipper area. Then they tell you they really tell you how to cover it, what to do, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but this is something that was always covered. And then all of a sudden, when we saw it on the non-allowable list, we were very upset, the statewide members, all of us. So that's why I said, well, since I'm the chair of that subcommittee, that's why I got the regulations from the New York City Department of Health in regard to this. So OPW can see that this is not some frivolous little thing we're asking for. And we also, with children who are incontinent or can't or have to use diapers, please, Chris, go down a little more, please. And one other important thing, the local DDROs did not set up these lists at all. Stop there for a minute. They did not. Why? Because if they did, there would have been more stuff on the allowable list than the non-allowable. This was done, as I again said, through Central, which would have been Albany. So what the fellow member, Ms. Gail Paddle, did for me, she has a spreadsheet. The reason we're not sharing it yet is we're still gathering more information. Like, as you see all the stuff on the non-allowable and with the travel, Chris, slowly scan down slowly. As you see, we're trying very hard. You see, well, the mattress, unless criteria is met, we're trying to do food. We are trying many different things because of safety issues, certain other important things, and we're trying very, very hard. But what we are knowing that we've decided to do is to justify this. But why am I bringing this up? Because I need help. I need a lot of help because I also know that the way the forms were changed were made very difficult. And I've asked, so now I'm going to ask again. Chris, go down slowly. We need to know on the parent's point of view, I completely know what the issues and what the problems are. Agencies, well, only a few have explained to me, and I want to thank, I want to thank you, NICED, for going on record at the statewide explaining how difficult the forms are, how time consuming, how frustrating it is. And I appreciate that you did that. Because everyone, you should know something. When OPWDD, then OMRDD was founded, and then they had it, and they had to start the family support programs. The first program that was set up as a trial basis was family reimbursement. Now, family reimbursement is a very popular and was successful program. Now, what the statewide members asked, not to make it draconian, we wanted that, and if Region 5, example, accepts non-noise cancellation headphones, the other 4 regions, same thing. We asked for consistency. We did not ask for draconian. I also got things changed in reference with certain medical devices when they said for everything you had to have medical documentation. So then I decided, let me have my fun. I brought the list in to medical doctors that have done family reimbursement, helped me with the medical part. And they looked and they said, what do you mean by this? And I said, well, this is what they want. Yes, but you see, he says, OMH has their guidelines. He says other O agencies or, for children with other disabilities, not even the developmental disabilities. He says, I can read up what guidelines do I have to use? And when we brought it up, and I was really upset and I didn't care, they were angry at me. But I did bring it up. Why don't you have the guidelines set up for what you want the doctors to write? Not every parent brings their child to a DD Article 28 or Article 16 clinic. There are times families who have had doctors that have taken care of them for years. They don't take them away from it. They keep them with them. And they have said OPW needs to do more training in reference to what kind of medical justification do you mean? Even the OTs and the PTs said the same thing to me. Even speech therapists said. Yes, I asked a lot of questions, and I asked and asked, and of course, if anyone told me don't use I didn't use anybody's names because they told me not to. But what I need from everybody's help is, as you see the regular, slowly go down, as you see all the stuff that they're having for on the non-allowable list. Chris, scroll down a little more. Just scroll down a drop more. Hi, Chris, are you scrolling? I can't scroll, that's why. Okay, he said. So, as you see, Chris, scroll.
I think he forces. There you go.
Yeah, there he is. Okay. Now, of course, we understand certain things are maybe, all right, luxury items like a swimming pool and a hot tub. Okay, I'm not going, right now I'm not going into that. But I don't want anyone to think I'm not for it either. But what we have decided, keep going down, Chris, scroll. Oh, go down. Go down. Keep going.
That's the
I
bottom.
think this is it, Debbie. That's the
That's
last
it.
page.
What's
Yeah.
the other, okay. Now here, these are responses that we got out of June 10th, 2024. And as you see, we did get certain things, them to give us more guidance. Chris, go scroll down for this, please, slowly. And yes, everybody's getting copies of this. But what do we want from everybody?
Excuse me, Madam Co-Chair, just to let everyone know, I already put those attachments into the chat. So please, everyone, to please save on your chat, which I'll explain after Deborah's finished.
Okay. As you see, we got questions. We also did surveys that was done through the statewide committee, and that was done by Chris Palegia. He's from Region 1. And you see, what we need to know is when what I've been asking everybody, and I appreciate you doing this. I know how frustrating it is for the family, but I want to know for the care managers, how difficult has this become? I do know some of the families have told me about certain misinformation. You don't need self-direction to do family reimbursement. In fact, it's usually the other way. It's very hard when you get self-direction to get reimbursement. You have straight families, family reimbursement is one of the few straight family support programs there are. So as you see, we know there's a lot of issues. We know the forms have gotten much more difficult for the families, but it's just as much as the providers. And trust me, the local DDROs across the state have been very frustrated too. So what I'm asking is, from agency people, please let me know how this is affecting your families, but you getting the paperwork together, getting the forms filled out, and then when it's turned down and you appealed it, did it work or not? And if you see things that are on the non-allowable list that before were on the allowable, and you know that they help the families, you don't have to use names. I need examples. Like you could say, family B went and got this, and because, like example, family B has a membership to go to the Zoological Society of New York City, because I'm using my region only, okay? So that means you can bring our child into the Bronx Zoo, the Central Park Zoo, the Children's Zoo, that's attached also in Manhattan, We can also do the Prospect Park Zoo, the what's the other one? Oh, I'm sorry, the New York Aquarium, as well as the Queens Zoo. Staten Island is a separate, but that doesn't mean we would never advocate for that. So what we're asking everybody is things that are on the non-allowable list, how is this affecting your families and you as an agency? We also want to know, has this convinced that you may have to give up this program? That we need to know also, because of all the hoops and everything they want us to jump through and do. Has this made your agency consider dropping this program? Not because you want to, but has it gotten that hard? So we're showing you, and we are giving this to you, and I don't think I'm happy with any of this. I'm not. But that we were able to move a lot of stuff off was a big thing. And we're continuing. I'm not giving up. I don't want to lose family reimbursement program, as I've seen it help families. I've seen it help them with possible evictions when they needed new beds. I knew families who their child, besides being incontinent, were very heavy and they broke the bed. And I will never say their names because I would never. I've also had families who used to have them help them every year with the member of, say, the zoo, as well as the membership for, say, a museum, even though I consider zoos indoor, outdoor, because they have both kinds of exhibits. I would like to know that also if your child needs certain devices and Medicaid's not going to cover it, we need to know how difficult it was for you. For glasses, please tell me if you break them. Oh boy, you're lucky if you can get them replaced. And glasses are not cheap at all. So these are things that I'm asking. And you see, I'm going to keep asking in every meeting, even if I keep it in the chat. I'm asking everybody, if you don't send us the information to be able to advocate for the changes, the family reimbursement program may one day cease to exist. And I don't think we want that, because that's a very inexpensive program to run. It shouldn't have been made so difficult. Yes, I know they need receipts in the correct fiscal year. That means in New York City, which is Region 4, we're on a different fiscal year because New York City is technically wealthy. So it would be, we're from July 1st to June 30th. New York up outside, which is Region 5, 3, 2, and 1, their fiscal year is April 1st to March 31st. Now we need to know what has this done to you and the families. And we, as you see, we have things like we need things to know. Are you having issues with you document? Should they have things like, should it be in the life plan? And you know what? You don't have to have a care. No, I'm not telling parents they don't need it. But the moment, if you don't have care management services, you still can get straight, as long as your child is OPWDD eligible, you can do reimbursement. Family reimbursement, but you must follow their rules and regulations with the receipts that are in the current fiscal year only. And a lot of justification. Now, that is
The
the presentation. Does anybody have questions?
pause for a second. Rochelle have a question. She got her hand raised.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hi,
thanks,
Rochelle.
Rose.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, everybody. First, I want to thank Deborah and the Statewide Family Support Services Advisory Committee for the really hard work they've been doing on expanding this really important program for families and individuals. And we've made some progress. I have a few comments, which is, I also happen to be on my son's provider's family reimbursement committee, where we get to go through the requests.
Oh, boy, I've been on those too.
Submit. and before they get passed on to OPW to the DDRO to request reimbursement. And one of the things we've noticed is, and this is an appeal to our very overworked care managers, that sometimes the justifications that are being provided are kind of a cut and paste job of the general disability of the person from the life plan. And we had to send a few of them back for more specificity about why this particular item is required. Not that that the child has cerebral palsy, but what about their condition means that they have excessive wear on their clothing and need to have some financial support for that, for example. So I just want to make an appeal. I know how hard it is, and I know how much of a burden there is on all the care managers to please try and look at what you're sending to make sure it really supports the request, the specific request, because otherwise the DDRO is going to just reject it. And then we have an uphill battle. Secondly, one of the things I hope that the statewide committee can do is now that there's many items that are added for possible approval by the committee, that we start tracking about whether they're actually approving these things or not.
We are slowly doing that. We are doing that
slowly. We are going to be doing that. Okay.
We have been, but we don't have enough info to put out. That's why I'm asking for additional justifications and also the tracking, because we don't want to just show one or two things. That's why I'm explaining racial, but we are trying to do that.
Well, perhaps
we wish everyone would be more cooperative to us.
Yeah, one of the things I might recommend in that way is to perhaps reach out to the provider associations where agencies are members who provide this service, and they can help set up a tracking system. They track many other things, and I think that IAC in particular would be receptive to being helpful on that. So I don't know if other people agree with that, but I do believe that they would help with tracking that, because you have to, and NIDA also for the statewide. And, the providers have an interest in knowing if we find out that they're still rejecting the same items, even with, supposedly they're available for approval, then we know we have a different fight on our hands. But once again, thank you to Debra and to the committee.
Rochelle, before you, I want to tell you this. I want to thank you for what you said, because the provider agencies were like, oh, you're going to fix reimbursement. That's not what I went on the committee for. I'm not acting like I'm going to fix the whole thing. I'm in the advocating piece, and because the DDROs can't exactly, they are trying to get things changed and improved, but it's not easy. So I appreciate what you said. And every provider here, please tell the IAC and the NIDA to work with us, because this is, it's frustrating for us families when we don't get the family reimbursement, but it's even rougher for you for the ones who have that program. So if you can please email the information to me of how much more difficult has this become for you, it would be a big help. Thank you, Rochelle. I appreciate everything you said. Thank you.
Just a suggestion is perhaps the statewide chairs could make a formal request in writing to IAC and NIDA and any other provider associations.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. But we'll do it again.
Please.
I'm going, but this time I'm going to tell them put me in there, or I'll co-write it with them, because I'm fed up. Because I want this to stay on. Who else does have a question for us?
So I was just going to add, no, that's a great idea, Rochelle. And in addition, I believe also New York Alliance is also a great advocacy group, that does a lot of work with that. And I'm sure they will definitely be able to support the committee on that as well. So yeah, a letter to them, an email to kind of like get some support. And also providers too, because there are providers out there that probably is not even aware that this work is happening behind the scene, to get more support. Because this is a great cause, and it is really a great support to the family. So we want to make sure that this is really, going forward. So thank you for the feedback.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Also, one other thing, if anybody here who can hear my voice happens to be a member of the statewide Developmental Disability Advisory Council, I'd appreciate if you bring it up to them too. Because us working together, the medical committee was approached and they haven't really helped us. So if anybody here knows them, anybody on the DDAC, and please put pressure on them to assist us. Because this is affecting them as a provider as well as the families. And the last thing we need to affect is families who have children with developmental ability. I mean, what Rochelle said is correct. I mean, I have families I know, I've seen their children who have cerebral palsy as an example. They drool because they want to, it can't be helped. And that ruins clothes. You need to specific. If the child drools, the child pulls at their clothes like that, rips it, because they're trying to get the wet thing away from them because of their drool, say something, write it in. They need it. I'd appreciate it. And please send me info. We're trying very hard so we can get it on that list. We want that the next statewide, which is in December, the first Wednesday, to be able to say, look what we got. We have more justification. And that's what we're trying to do. Is there anybody else who has a question, concern, or anything for me?
There is no one else has their hand up, or no one has put anything in the chat.
Okay, can I ask everybody that's listening right now? How many of you are willing to send me information? How many of you are willing to let me know how difficult this has become? And if you're also a parent or family member, sibling, whatever, how difficult this has made it for you and the family. We need to know this. And also care managers, I know how frustrating it is, but you can't do for reimbursement, you really can't do cut and paste anymore. It doesn't work, not with them. We had to use major examples. That's how we got the skiing lessons. Like I'll give the basic explanation how we were able to get this. There's a family that the child was very upset because he couldn't bond with his sisters. And the family, except him, could ski. So by having the skiing lessons, he was able to all of a sudden participate with his sisters. And he had a bonding experience with them, and they were able to bond with him. That's a great justification, because that's what you want. If siblings can bond together. And it took the pressure off the parents, because this way the family could ski together. So when they went on vacation, to say for the winter to go skiing, that's a wonderful thing to do. So the example like that, or you say, I want to take my child out, but the excessive drooling is very frustrating to my child, and that, or children who are incontinent or who have sensitivity to certain clothing items because of their developmental disability. Please put that in the life plan and justification, but please let us know if you're being turned down for something that is misunderstood, but very, very important. People don't always understand that it's not just what you eat, it's also what you're wearing can give you an allergic reaction. Anybody has yes, one hand's raised. Who is this, please?
Hi, it's me, Mary Alice. How are you, Deborah?
I'm doing good, thank you.
I wanted to say that I know you guys began the meeting by stating topics for to be considered. I think one of them will be justification, because it's not just for family reimbursement that justifications are important. It's for amending the waiver. It's for starting the waiver. And we have sometimes, I know as a care manager, new hires, and they see it as an application, like an entitlement application. And these are things that have to be justified as to why the person needs it. That will be a great training for it, because the frustration is not just for family reimbursement, it's for any service that we're trying to get. The other part is that sometimes families, although we don't have to share with them the justification that gets submitted, but we do include certain sentences and statements into the life plan, sometimes they ask us to remove it. They feel that it's a bit intrusive about their individual, their family member. They don't want it. So I think that in part educating the families too, that not that we as care management have to exaggerate, but kind of really give them a worst case scenario date to get them the right support. And in this case, like you said, the statement from the doctor stating that they have saliva, that it damages their clothes, is very helpful. But sometimes we find that it takes a lot of education to the family. Like, yes, we have to paint this picture, but this is the only way we're going to get an approval for it.
Well, Marian said, my dear, we let me see if I forget. Definitely would love to do that as a subject, because we need to also do it even as a separate workshop geared for families, and then also if we have to do one geared for the professionals, or if we have to do both.
Because yeah,
it's frustrating. You know how many times, let me tell you something. In my child's life plans, which right now we haven't done it, but we have to update psychological, psychosocial. I put everything in there that didn't look, even if it looked negative for him.
correct.
I can say that is, besides his mother, he's here and he's an adult, and he said I could say it. I'm not saying what we wrote, but we wrote what he can't do, because I have explained to families, stop being insulted and upset. If you want the real help, then you really have to say what they cannot do at all. It has to be said. You have to take away your embarrassment. If you really care and love your child like you claim, you want the right help. And by not accepting it, that's why the government will turn down a lot of your things. And you'll say,
I think it would help. I mean, I don't mind volunteering if you guys need something as part of the care management and what builds a good justification, but also the education on the family, because it's true, Deborah. They do feel it's intrusive. Like, you don't need to write that in, but that is what's going to get the driving force of the why we need the support. So, yeah.
I agree with that. And yes, we help. Rose, I know you wanted to say, go ahead.
And actually, I'm going to let Rochelle go because she had her hand up first. Go ahead, Rochelle.
Thanks, Rose. I think that's a really excellent point, but I believe that it is the responsibility of the CCO, and I'm on the Care Design Board of Managers as a family rep, so it's not like I'm dumping on CCOs, but I believe it's the responsibility of CCOs to do this kind of education with the care managers and with members and families. Now, the Care Design Individual and Family Advisory Board is putting out a pamphlet about the CAS, the Coordinated Assessment System, that is making just the point that Debra made, which is don't try and make your family member sound better than they are. You need to tell the truth so that they will be eligible for the benefits that they need. And, we're going to be doing some more education, and so will Care Design with members and families. But I think that all the CCOs meet, and together they have monthly meetings and they can come up with some education. They have full-time professionals working on education who can do that for the care managers. And we can certainly offer to help, to give examples, but let's put the responsibility where it needs to go. And I will certainly raise this with Care Design leadership.
I don't disagree with you, Rochelle, but I have had families who have been at meetings, like a U of T meeting, and a parent is crying because their son can't read and write. And she always denied the child's disability. So you know what happened? There's no proof, so child cannot get all the correct help and benefits they really need. So we need to, I agree with what you say, but there are some families who still don't have care managers, and they want OPWDD services because they hear about the waiver, but they don't understand that if you don't justify or say what your child can't do, you will not be getting the service. It's not my choice. This is what the federal government's put out. And we need to keep educating. I'm very glad they're putting out that pamphlet. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. for what you're doing.
Excuse me, everyone. This is Chris. I just want everyone to know the time is now 10:45 a.m. We do have to do some update information as well as we did promise we do announcements because the legislative committee starts in 15 minutes.
Let you so Rose
Okay.
has something to say.
No, that's good. I was just looking at the time too, Chris. Thank you so much. Again, this is a good conversation, and this is exactly what we want to happen in this committee: is collaborating and bringing, support and bringing trainings that is educational to both the families and the providers. Rochelle, I hope that pamphlet that you guys are working on, we can share it with other CCOs as well, because we don't have everyone, on the call, and that's why we want all representation for all CCOs, so we can have this conversation together and support each other. So we will look into, maybe Deb, you and I could collaborate and talk about other justifications, because I know OPWD sometimes also have cheat sheet that they put for providers. So anything that we can collaborate on to provide support to the families, we'll be more than happy to kind of like work together as a team to make sure that this happens. Again, thank you, Deborah. This is great. I'm so glad we had the conversation about bringing this to the committee to make sure that everyone are getting the information that they need. And we will continue to touch base on that as well. I do have a contact for New York Alliance, Deborah, and I will pass that information to them as well, to reach out to the statewide and to further, discuss the family support reimbursement.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
No problem. So thank you for everything, Deborah. It is 10:46. We can probably move forward towards announcement or any. I know Chris.
Yes, Rose, I have some updates also, but thanks to Rochelle also, who's also here. Rochelle, who's also the vice chair of the DD Council. I think, Rochelle, you agreed that, as a reminder to everyone to please try to attend the subcommittees and the DD Council, as well as the advisory council meetings. Well, definitely, because DD is the last Monday of October.
Okay.
But just want to give everyone an update information, because this was needs to be. I know, Rose, we are discussing this for the next month as well. So I just wanted everyone to know this also. And I think Deborah and Rose, you want to mention this a little bit quick?
Well, I'll do this quick. Rose, good morning.
Yeah.
There's
so
information. Go ahead, Rose. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we are trying to bring speakers, because we know there's a lot of changes that is happening in terms of SNAP benefits, Medicaid. So we would like to bring someone. I sent the email. I'm waiting for a response to have a presenter to come and give us some update and changes on benefit, entitlements as well for next month, which will be our next meeting, which is November 12th.
And everybody saw that. I thank Rochelle and everybody who kept sending everything about the updates for local for SSI, and this is very important, and it's going to be more helpful for families who have to live on at the moment SSI benefits. So it will be sent to you and has been forwarded through the Brooklyn Advisory Council's website, as well as the Brooklyn DD Council website. Right? Does anybody have an announcement they want to make?
Excuse me, I still have some up here.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, just let me remind everyone that, as you know, the MTA Capital went through, but we are reminding everyone to please share the information, and please remind your elected officials to please remind them that we need the funding for the MTA, not just buses and subways, but train stations, updating the future. So I'm making that clear. Second, this is to remind to all CCOs and agencies. As you know, starting the end of the year, Omni will be switching over. We're reminding everyone, if you did not update your information, this is the time to do that. Please make sure you do that. It will look like something like this, but it's just to make sure your information is up to date. If you're choosing the card, that means you have not got it yet in the mail yet. It should be coming the end of the year. More announcements about that coming soon. If anyone has any questions, you can check with me on the chat, or you can raise your hand during the announcement. Going back to you, ladies, and just to remind everyone, please make sure if you have any service openings, please make sure you also, if you're not attending this meeting or other subcommittees, you can always email Brian or Deborah at both of the councils. Thank you, ladies. Up to you.
Okay, Chris, have you seen anybody who raised their hand? Because it's a little hard for me to see.
No, we don't have any hand raised right now.
Yeah,
But
Well,
also,
we do. From Jackie Tripolti.
oh, just
from
now. Okay, there we go.
Hello, Jackie.
Hi, everyone. Just a reminder that NYSED does have family support reimbursement available. And Deborah, we want to make sure that families do understand that, yes, this is a challenge. And yes, at the statewide meeting, we did mention, what the challenges are. So we are absolutely on board to try to help and provide information. A lot of our families do need to access these funds, and they're hitting a lot of hurdles. So I'm going to put my contact information in the chat. Also, to keep in mind, NYSED does offer reimbursement evaluations for individuals who do not have Medicaid for the purposes of obtaining OPWDD eligibility. We have our sports and recreation tickets that they can contact Sarah. Again, I'm going to try and get all that information in the chat. And our transportation for individuals that are, they need to go to a doctor's appointment or something. NYSED does have those services available through our family support contract. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jackie. And I appreciate, as I know that you have been a very big help. And I appreciate that you were there at the statewide and you said something. Thank you. You don't realize how much of a big help that was to us. We appreciate it. Is there anybody else who has needs to pass information to us? And everyone's welcome to stay for the legislative committee, because remember, we have a big election coming up for the president, but not just that. Congress, some United States senators, our local state and assembly people, and their proposals in New York City that we need to actually read and vote on. So that's a very important part. And all I can say is I appreciate everybody's put their info in the chat. Rose, is there anything else more you'd like to say?
No, I'm looking forward to seeing everyone next month in our next meeting. We're really trying to bring an exciting topic of entitlements and a lot of education, a lot of changes to help the families. So if you can attend, please do so. And if you cannot attend, if you can send someone to attend on your behalf to get the information. Again, we want to keep, this committee engaged and active with a lot of information. So we would like to see you all, again, next month, which is October 12th, same time, same links. Thank you, everyone, for being on today and for your inputs as well.
And thank you, Rose, for being able to work so well together. I appreciate it.
Everyone, this is
Thank
Chris
you, Deb.
Wright. Stay tuned. The legislative committee will start in 7 minutes. So anyone who is joining the legislative committee, please stay on. As I said again, that will start in approximately 7 minutes.
Fine.
Hi,
We're fine.
Hi,
We'll wait till we
Rosina.
Maria wouldn't be able to join us this morning because she has a conflict in a meeting. So I do apologize. You'll have to deal with me.
Okay. Well,
I'm going to close my door. I have a session on the other side with the parents. So don't want to have any noise. Thank you so much, everyone. I was at a get on business. I hope everyone is having a marvelous morning, not as tired as I am, because I had meeting last night. It was a long night and back in business. So
Yes,
first I want to thank Ms. Tang, Deborah, and Chris. We had a meeting because you're thinking about how do we move forward with this legislative committee, what we're going to do and what supports we need from everyone who is here, as well as the families, in providing information to the parents. How do we get the information to them? How do we get them to create or develop a relationship with their assembly person or senate person or whoever is in their district? Because one of the things I always say to people is that relationships are very important. We cannot always want to ask someone for something without developing some form of connection. It's like I always say to someone, meet me and you want me to buy something from me. You don't even know me.
we have to get to know one another. So I have to trust you enough to get information from you or to receive the information you want to give me. So last week, Thursday, Maria, myself, Debbie, and Chris, we were talking about how can we get our parents' attention in being able to reach the legislation. And we're thinking about doing like 1 or 2 mini sessions within, like, probably for next week, for the following meeting, for the general meeting, talk about one little topic. How do I introduce myself to a legislator? Some of us are already pros here. We know how to do that. We've been doing it for a long time. Now it's teaching, the educational part of me. How do I teach someone? What techniques do I give you? What question do I give you to ask that you can connect to your representative? So we are saying to do a workshop, a session, and like, how do I introduce myself to my legislator? And have these mini sessions where parents can be empowered to feel comfortable, because sometimes we do feel intimidated, by asking some things, by asking a question, especially even though we're the ones who vote them in. And yet we're intimidated to ask a question of them, to say, you know what, I voted for you. What are you doing when it comes to these laws or these legislations being created? So we came up with four simple things to do. How to teach the parents. You're stating your name. My name is, I am a parent of Johnny, who is diagnosed with, whether it's autism, who is diagnosed with cerebral palsy. Name the disability, because if I say to you, I'm a parent of a child with disability, what disability? We have to inform our people, our senators, our assembly about the different disabilities, because they may only hear intellectual disability, or they may only hear the word autism. And we have to educate them to making sure of the awareness of other disabilities that people go through. What is learning disability? Whatever disability. So when you describe, when you introduce yourself to the council member or whoever it is, you're stating who you are, and you're a proud parent of Johnny, who has autism, or autism, or who has an intellectual disability, but also stress on what it is. And one of the things we were talking about when we introduce ourselves, you bring a picture, because a picture plays 1,000 words. Because most people know us by our numbers. They know you by your child number, the social security number, whatever number. We have to let them know that your child is not only a number, your child is a person. And talk about the experience that you go, not to say for 5 hours, just like a 2-minute introduction of who you are. You're a proud parent of Johnny. Have a picture of Johnny, who has autism, or who has intellectual disability, or who has cerebral palsy or MS, whatever it is, so they can know who you are. Say, I live in your district. I live on so-and-so street, because that is who you represent me in my community. And then you say to them, okay, I want to know, what are you doing? What is your view on, on special needs? And what laws have you made, or what legislation have you made to support us? Basic. And then we start calling them, and you introduce yourself to them. You call once a month. Hi, I'm Miss Jones. I met you a week ago. I just called. I was talking to you about my son or my daughter. I'm just calling to say hello, to let you know I hope you're really supporting us and working for us. Just a simple session, because parents are already feeling overwhelmed, and they're constantly advocating, and they're constantly fighting. But when you start developing a relationship with your senators or your assembly, at least they have your ear. They can have your voice. So that was one of the things we were discussing. And then we talked about having series, understanding what is the law. We have another series. How important is legislation? How can you as a parent share your voice? What is your concern? And how can we put that across to the legislator? So that was just something simple to start with, because I believe I don't need to have all these fancy words or whatever. I am a parent. This is my son. This is Johnny. He is blah, blah, blah. He goes to District 75. That is one of the program, or he goes to a state program, OPWD, and let them know. My son Johnny is getting service. Like Debbie had that great idea. My son Johnny is getting services from OPWDD, and that means the People of Disability Agency, and this is what my son is receiving. Am I happy, not happy? I may not be happy with the services. So at least they understand, okay, the have service, we need to pay, do that legislation, and they can get paid as a DSP, that they are respected. Because as parents, you rely on these DSP, and if they don't have the legislation to increase their pay rate or to even making sure residentials are fine or visiting places, it's important. Or my son lives in a residence, and I find in living in that residence, it is a YAI, which is a provider of OPWDD. And these are agencies that my child goes to. Or my child gets services from OMH, Office of Mental Health. And that is a crisis. I realize as my child is getting older, I am seeing more emotional wellness characteristics being displayed in my son. Now, one of the things we would love to do is how OMH and OPW can really truly work together. And what about a dual diagnosis? So at least as we continue, we can inform parents how to ask this question, give them scripts if they have to, so that way they can. But I love the idea of making sure you have a picture when you see them, and which will be great. So when we have our legislative branch this year, I'm praying that we have it as in person. We have to start working on that. Have it in person. Rachel and they are very much involved in that, so we can start early. I'm hoping that for the legislative breakfast, everyone brings a picture of their child. So when the representatives, when they talk to me, it's not like, oh, well, Johnny, who is Johnny? What are Johnny's wearing and having accessibility wheelchair or something? This is a picture of my son or daughter who is in a residence, and because of their DSP and they're doing this. So they have to see. We are humans. We connect by looking at a picture, connect by talking to people. And that's the way I think we can start, when we were having that meeting, to talk. Don't overwhelm, I don't like to be overwhelmed. I like to have simple things. Simple things can be simply done, because we have to listen. Our representatives know what's going on. Each of them know what's going on. It's because we as the parents or the constituents are not reaching out to them to let them know, I live in your district. And what are you doing? So that was one of the things. We had that great discussion, and it worked out really well. And we can have I'll speak to Brian also. So the next meeting, we can just have a quick session. That's it. Because as parents, we have so many of the parents, as me being a provider, so many issues. But again, I believe it's a relationship, how you connect. And I want the representatives to come there and they see you and they see your child picture as well. When you introduce yourself, most of us are exposed. We know how to talk to the representatives. They know most of us by name. So we have to start helping our parents do the same. And not only go there in January when the budget is now being created or whatever. They got to know us from now. Because how dare you just only want me to ask for you in the middle of something, in the middle of your crisis? And that's what human nature is. Only when we're in crisis, we want to fight. We need to fight before crisis and after crisis. Yes, Deborah, and then I'll get to you, Rachel.
Rochelle,
sorry.
First of all, excellent. But the only thing I want you to know about this, it's very important also that, and I did this a few times, I have pictured not just of Christopher I'm talking about when he was under 18. I had a picture of him and me together. And I also would take and make copies. And I would hand them the picture with our contact information. And I'd say, yeah, I'm in your district. Yes, you're my state assembly, my state senator. Did it work? Oh, yeah, because when I was also complaining about the New York City DOE, then either the Board of, he was old enough to be in the Board of Ed, then DOE. It did work, because then they realized But the one other thing is important too. It's not just only complain when something has happened. We also have to compliment them when they put the funding in. Because if you say thank you, they will also, don't be surprised, they ask you to be in their legislative newsletter. And that's very important for us because it means we're spread out. And the government knows we're there and that we are here and we're willing to advocate. We're not backing down. So that's another suggestion I have, and we can do that because there's many things. But also, we also have to educate the families on understanding their child's developmental disabilities and things to say or to do, even though they may be upset about it, which I can understand. I can understand people can be very mean and cruel, but understand if we want to get the right help, we have to be truthful. So, now.
Thank you. Rochelle, thank you.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I think this is a good beginning in terms of training family members who have not done this before. A couple of points. One is I know that IAC did a lot of parent training for lobbying in the past and still do. And they actually have materials, and it might be useful to ask them just to share it because, it gives you some talking points ahead of the time. And I agree with, keeping things as simple as possible. I do want to share, however, that, I attended the DD advocacy meeting this week, and that's sponsored by the statewide NIDA Provider Association. And, there was a lot of important information at that meeting that I think needs to kind of inform what we do in terms of educating our families. So the demands this year are very different than previous. They're avoiding the word COLA altogether because they found that the concept of COLA confused the legislators. And that's why we wound up with such a pittance last time because, not the only reason, but they confuse easily. We are a small population among many competing populations with very urgent needs, people with childcare needs, homelessness, affordable housing, medical needs. We all know all the things that are so important to the people in New York City. And we're just, part of that. And we're a smaller part of that. So we need to figure out how to get attention. I think this year their main focus is asking for a 7.8% Medicaid rate increase for our providers. And that would allow them to then raise the wages of their staff. So they're taking a different approach. Instead of asking for a separate wage enhancement and a COLA, they're asking just for a 8.8% increase. So one of the things for families who are receiving services is to say, our providers need more money. They're losing money. They can't afford to raise the staff salaries. And, this is what providers say they need just to keep up, not even to get ahead, but just to keep up. They're
That's
also
a good
asking for
idea.
some
Thank
other
you.
things that are probably not that important for people to raise directly right now, which is they want to have a commission on workforce, and they want to have more capital funding for things that will help the environment, like, let's say, changing the roof. So, that's a separate pot of money, capital funding. It doesn't come out of the same budget. And that's something, the provider reps will go after the legislators on and the governor. We need to talk about raising Medicaid reimbursement for our providers. And a lot of the legislators don't seem to understand that the only source of money for our providers is, in fact, Medicaid. That's all they have, and any private fundraising that they do if they have donors, but that's it. There's no other money, and
That
so
is so true.
they need to understand that to understand why this is such an important ask, and the families need to understand that too. Who's paying for your child services? It's not
Right.
OPW is a separate agency. It's Medicaid.
Mhm.
And so I
And
think
how
that's,
you can support.
yeah, that's a piece of information I think is good for families. The other
Yeah.
thing I would suggest is we need to also talk about special ed and funding for school services and also the big transportation crisis, school transportation crisis, and also program
Thank you, Michelle.
transportation crisis. You know, of getting people where they need to be. And it's a real problem. Children don't go to school because they can't get there. It's a 2-hour trip. By the time they get there, it's time for them to turn around and go home.
Also,
So,
one of the things I'm glad you raised up, Rochelle, the special education services as far as legislation, because a lot of parents need to become more informed, more aware. Well, I've been getting phone calls. Parents are just pulling their kids out of the thing 18 years. I don't know if it's the school, the information being provided by
mhm,
18, they are graduating their children.
yeah,
Taking them out of the program, not realizing their children can stay in the program until 22.
22,
I've
right?
been having so many calls of parents saying, "Oh, my child is graduating." I say, "How old is your child?" And you're especially, "Oh,
Yeah.
18." The school say, I said, when the school tell you your child graduating at 18, is your child going to college? Is your child going to a day program? And most of the day program accept the children from 21 or 22. What is happening to your child between 18 and 21 when you decide you don't want to say my child has a disability? I want my child to have a degree or a diploma, and your child is sitting at home for the next 3 years. And that is one of the concerns. We'll be having, my timing, we're doing I'm working right have a meeting tonight, a transition forum. I know October is all disability and November, and I think is about disability. And we're going to be having like an autism forum. Ellen, I have to call you because we are having the people from the transition center like, why isn't there a connection with OPWDD and the school system for our children from the 16, I believe from 16 years old? Plans should be putting in place. Parents also be aware of the OPWD files. Do I need residential later on in life? And they're not checking that because they figure, I'm not going to put my child in a residence. I'm not going to do that, which is fine. But at least you're giving yourself the opportunity to have your child on a list or whatever, if you don't understand that self-direction stuff too. A lot of parents are very astute with the self-direction. Some are not. They're not educating themselves enough with the information to properly get the needs for their child when they're doing that self-direction. Even that self-direction is a whole different story. It's a whole different apple. Yes, Ellen, and thank you, Rochelle. And also want to ask you a question with the NIDA. Do you have to be a member to come to these meetings, or how do you be a part of this?
No, you can contact Barbara Crozier and ask her.
Can you do me a favor? Let me give you my I'll put in my email for you so you can send me her information.
Sure.
Thank you. I do
And
appreciate that.
and then just one last thing, which is in terms of doing this education, I'm not sure the DD council meeting is the place to do it, honestly, because we don't get that many family members at this
Right.
point. It's mainly providers.
Okay,
So
so what we
if
can
any-
do, we can send like a Zoom or send like a flyer. And we were
Mhm.
just playing with, that's why we're having our meeting. We were just playing with the idea where we can do it, how we can do it a convenient time, which is so important. That's why we have these meetings. I love that because you are a parent. What is a convenient time? So we have to make sure that everyone gets what is needed. So I thank you for your comments. I love it. Put in myself. Yes, Ellen, how are you, my love?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Some of what I'm going to say is not going to be received well.
That's okay, hon.
The issue about the raise, the thing that, so historically, about 10 years ago, there was a raise, an increase offered. And as it turned out, it went to the increase in salaries for those people who were in higher up positions, not directly to the intimate providers of services. So unless and until that's guaranteed, that it will go to the direct care workers and not to the
Administration.
others, you're not going to get very far.
But
It's
and then that's
my
good.
approach that I listening to what was said at this meeting and the meeting before. Sometimes you have to assume competency, and to look at families as if they were always needy is one. People need things, but to not respect them for their own abilities. Most of the families that we deal with have a talent somewhere, some way, if only in the talent of getting to the DD council or to the agencies to get help. There is a constant churn. New people come in all the time, which is why so much of what we do has to be repeated. The other point was, at one point in time, OPWDD had a liaison that attended transition meetings at the high school level. It is unfortunate that it doesn't happen now, but I don't think it can be denied either, especially since OPWDD seems to be, from my point of view, more interested in getting into the grassroots nitty gritty than it was before. We have a general overview, but they are realizing, as well as we are, that we're only dealing with a small percentage of people, and that kids, and this is part of the Department of Education's fumbling as well, that kids turn 18 and families, or kids turn 16, 14, whatever, and families are not informed about the transition process, or worse yet, families are told you don't have to worry about that until he's 20, and then we'll refer him to access, which is okay, that's fine, let's refer him to access, but the services can begin much sooner than that. The DOE folks don't know that much, so the double prong to this would be to reach out, maybe by creating a pilot project, although I always think of Snoopy when I say pilot project, to identify a region or a district and do intensive training to the staff that is doing the transition piece from a family's point of view, so that they can understand that waiting until 20 is not sufficient, even if they have presumed, and I find this to be more the case than not, that the families are either incapable or unwilling to plan. Again, it goes back to presuming competency on the part of the folks we deal with. There are people who are needy. No two ways about it. But there are people who are competent. They're policemen, they're firemen, they're nurses, they work in schools, they work at JP Morgan. I mean, they wouldn't have a job like this if they weren't competent. So I'm not.
No, Ellen, I received that comment because it is so true. And that's why one of the reasons I'm doing this transitional forum with them, having a meeting with DOE.
The other thing might be to have one per borough, to have one in the borough, and to do two things: to have the transition linkage coordinator, or whatever the hell they're calling them now, there, but to separate people out by their EDs and ADs, right? So you come from the 16th, you're from the 28th, I'm from the 37th, and have tables there with either representatives from or the actual representative present to introduce themselves to those people. A legislative breakfast is usually a mob scene. People come, well, not anymore, but they come, they eat, and they run, right? They don't meet their legislator, because the legislator spends all his or her time talking to the people he or she already knows. So have something that's totally different. Open up, I don't know, a school, a site. Have tables with the rep there. Granted, it's not going to be the best thing in the world the first time around, but by the third time around, it'll work. The reason the UFT does their Ask the Experts is because we pushed on that. The UFT didn't think about having tables, and now that's one of their most successful things. But those are my three things. One, if you give a raise, there has to be an insurance that it goes to the people at the front line. Two, that we need to presume a certain level of competency on the part of the people. And three, we need to work on getting OPWDD liaisons, if nothing else, into the CSEs. And just so you know, I've been digging around about CSEs. Do you know that there are 11 CSEs? There are 150 CPSE administrators. There are so many they wouldn't give me a list. We need to be at the CPSE telling families who might qualify that they can apply for and get services. We need to be looking at the little guys, because every meeting I go to and every meeting I send people to seems to be focused on kids who are 18 and above.
Yeah. So I realize I've been having a lot of that because I don't know if it's, again, in the transition. I think, as an educator, when I taught from 14, I used to tell my parents, we need to start talking about the high school and what life after that. And it's never too late to have the conversation, because that's the important thing. And I mean, and what you're saying is true. I mean, before, as providers, when we spoke up the centers and say, oh, we're coming because we want money for ourselves as the executive directors, and which is true. There's the elephant in the roof that happens because it's so important, because some of us really and truly, if you look at that's how when Governor Cuomo had this whole thing of capping the payment for some executives, because they were very greedy and they were doing the wrong things. So it makes it worse for everyone, like other agencies who have the heart and is doing what needs to be done. So when you go in and longer as a provider, they said you come in for your money for you. Yeah. So that's what I think the turn came around, where we were having more of the parents advocating and supporting and saying, we work with JK organization. We have seen the work. Yes, they are providers who deserve for us to have that raise or that rate or whatever. Sometimes you can't do that because every agency is different. Every person is different, and it's up to the parents when an agency doesn't do something to just do the complaint just as much and do what needs to be done.
Lucina, my dear, Rochelle and I want you to hear this, please, and you, Ellen, too. When OPWDD was OMR, you may not like Tim, but Bob Levine used to be the transition coordinator for all of District 75. A lot of our children, they do not have a single transition coordinator like Bob Levine anymore. Also, Rochelle put in the chat that we do have a new committee coming that's dealing with transition work. And Rochelle, if I missed something, please correct me. But Alan, it's not where you're saying like, oh, no, Alan, we're not. We want you to know that that the New York City Department of Ed has not always allowed, and you know this is a fact, if your kid's not in a District 75 program, District 75 parents get treated a little better than the non-District 75 program. That's why they pull on us. Oh, your child can graduate at age 18. They pulled that on me, and you know that. And you know that you and everyone, parent to parent, coached me as well. Even Bob Levine coached me what to say. And they're frustrated. They weren't happy with me, and I honestly couldn't care less. If you're not giving my son a general diploma, or what I originally asked was, is he getting a advanced region? No. A Regents? No. No. An IP? Screw you. I said it's going to be, he'll stay till 21, or if that to be 22. Depends on what time of the year he was born. And
but the point is that we have to use our history based on our experience to go forward. We can't spend any more time talking about what.
But Ellen, you spent a lot of time talking about this, and we're.
Excuse me, guys. There's too much back talk at the same time, and it is overloading the transcript. So I have to remind you guys, please do not interrupt in a meeting. There is a rule that we did mention. Rochelle, do you want to add as vice chair? You can unmute yourself, Rochelle. You do have that
Please,
access.
Rochelle.
No, just quickly, just
Rochelle,
one for
vice
one
chair.
of Ellen's Yeah, to one of Ellen's points, for the last 3 budgets, it has been stipulated that any money that OPW received or agencies received, they have to is supposed to go, what was it, 80% to direct care staff, and they had to give a report to OPW about how that money was spent. So I think legislators are well aware of the need for the money not to go to higher executives, but to go to the people who do the direct care. And so I think that message is actually been received pretty well.
Rochelle, what is the new name of the new committee because for the transition? Because unfortunately, we lost Heather LaBeouf. She passed away, and that's why the committee was being restructured.
Yeah, that was one of the it was one of the reasons. It's called Meaningful Day, as far as I know, and it's
Yes.
supposed to address concerns of transition, employment, and DAHAB.
Yes.
Okay,
and
who's
it's all-
going to be the chair of that?
right now,
Um,
and we don't know the other person.
We're
yet.
working
Who's
on
this?
that. We're
They're
working on it, and we'll know by the next council meeting.
But it's been worked on because I want
Right. And we're trying to start
Because-
a residential committee as well.
All right, because if I am doing something, because I'm having a meeting, because I always do different forums and stuff within my timing, because my job is to make sure the parents that we serve knows exactly what's going on just as well. So that's why I always do these little summits with whether it's the DOE or whatever, because as every agency, we have the right to get the right information out there, to appropriate information to our parents. So I am having a discussion because we were talking, because I have a whole bunch of our parents, and I do things to serve our parents a lot because it's about them. We have a whole bunch of parents who want to know about, like Ellis, upon the transitioning. Why are we being told, even from the Department of Education, my child can graduate at 18, when you have nothing for my child that my child can have, unless my child is more of a higher functioning, verbal, expressive person who can go to college, which is wonderful. They have some great college programs for some of them, because most of I have 2 or 3 of my parents who kids are in Brooklyn College, in Kingsborough, in Mega. It's a minimum amount if your kid is high functioning enough to be in college. But what other access than Access VR or whoever? Yes, I know it's a little bit Debbie, but in what is Access VR or not? What is available for our children? So that's why I'm doing this meeting. I'm having a meeting today with the Department of Education, some of the big people, and having that for my parents. For my parents to make sure they get the information they need. So that's why I was asking who was in charge of this meeting, because I'm going to be having at least 25 or 30 of the parents come in to speak to them to make sure they get the results and the answers that they need. Everything, like Ms. Goodman always said to me, if you don't share that history, if you want to go back to Willowbrook, please don't be involved. Don't be involved. Let people make choices for you, and your kids will be right back to Willowbrook. And that's why I always have Miss Goodman is always here talking to our parents to remind them, if you don't get involved, this is what's happening. And to Ellen, you have to, because some parents I know here's Angela. Some parents I know will be afraid to ask a question, or they will take because I always tell people, we as parents, you think with your heart more than your head, because you so want to get, and Ellen was saying, yes, we did. Our population of people, that's why they call most of the families with special needs the vulnerable population, or the needy. But even doesn't mean to say you're needy and vulnerable that you have to sit and let people take advantage of you. You get yourself empowered. Ask the questions, whether they like you or not. That is your role as a parent, to ask a question. So I'm hoping as we continue having this legislative committee, we have meaningful discussions, because I don't need to waste my time or your time to be talking. Talking doesn't get nothing done. Action is what gets things done. So as we continue developing, yes, I love the idea of us having, I like Rochelle's idea of, like, we do that as a separate time. to inform the parent on what to say, what not to say, so someone gets offended. Just a simple introduction. We don't need 101 things, and we do mini sessions all the time to make sure parents are understanding. I will contact ISC, I will find about NIDA and what they're having, and how we can get information for parents can use the right words. And it don't have to be complicated. Simple. You know, you get a simple apple pie, a simple cake, those things are enjoyable to leave a good taste in your mouth. And as we do this, and listen, we can always agree to disagree. It doesn't bother me if we agree or disagree, but we have to respectfully get everybody's point across so we can respect each other, because everyone's opinion is valued, whether we like it or not. That's why most of our families, their voices are mute, because we have other people want to take over and say, oh, you should do this or you should do that. Everyone will go through their own crises until they get it. And the sad thing I find, I tell the parents, don't wait to be in a crisis to get for the help. You got to see the points before the crisis occurs. So that's one of the things. So I'm glad we're having this. I'm going to get information. Rochelle, thank you. And see what I see have.
I did have my hand up. I just.
Oh, sorry, Chris, I didn't see it.
Yeah, because right now, since everyone was unmuting themselves and almost overloaded the system, I didn't have an explosion yet. I like to bring up something, as Rochelle mentioned earlier, transportation. It is an issue that it's been going on even during when it was COVID and doing still today. What I'm seeing is, and this is what I'm checking. Also, as where I wear my other transportation hat, we're seeing that there is issues that travel training is not in that category at all in the schools. That's still an issue, because you're going to hear that from parents. The other issue has also been brought up, as you know, with lack of school buses, and you know that the parents need to use the IEP. And the IEP is supposed to let them use the school buses or use other transportation alternatives. For example, some of the families I'm seeing they're doing right now, since I am the outreach officer for ACTA for accessibility, we have seen an increasement of 40%, and I'm always going to say Brooklyn's 40% in the borough. So what I'm saying is with that 40%, thank you. Letting that person do accessoride, at least it's getting them there. But, the one thing that a lot of families got to understand, once we get the AAR Omni card set, yes, it will be easier for them to use it. But right now, a lot of education has to go in all different directions. We try something the legend way, but we have to try something new. And if we're going to agree and disagree, that's fine. But yelling and putting someone down is not going to solve anything. As we said before, as a lot of our fellow advocates were in the past, even some who are not with us anymore, let them rest in peace. We need to move on to the future, stop going backwards. I have said this to a lot of advocates, a lot of families, but we have to encourage them. We might not like what goes on. We might not like what they've been doing now, but advocating and getting their attention will work better. Yelling and fighting, it's not going to solve anything. You want something to be done, take a look outside and tell me, what can we fix if we don't attend these meetings or attend these committees? I like to see parents attending not just the provider information care coordination meeting, but attending other meetings like the DD, the advisory, other meetings. But they say, yeah, they're going to be there, but they don't keep their promise. We need to really reach up very strongly, encouraging them. Not, we got to tell them, how can we help them? That is our goal. And I know Rochelle, Brian, Debra, me, Lucina, we have to work together and get things accomplished. And I'm seeing Robin Rooney coming in as well as
Miss Blaze.
Miss Blaze is here. So unless they have any questions, just to everyone know before I proceed, can you all three please lower your hands, because you guys did jam the hand raise.
trying to. I can't get it down. Yours is up too. I can't get mine down. I tried.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just going to remind everyone, it is in the bottom with a smiley face. And if you can lower that hand, that will be appreciated because I know I can do well. Mine is jammed, so I know there is a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only showing raised hand, Chris. It's not showing lower hand. I'm not seeing a lower hand.
And this is what happens when we have 3 or 4 microphones. Everything gets jammed up. So let's
Okay.
also be careful what we're using it, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chris, for that. Because listen, I believe in if we're here for an hour, use it productively. Because my day goes crazy. Just as I do appreciate everyone taking the time to share their opinions. And again, I said we can agree to disagree. Is doing it respectfully, and every one of us have ideas. You know, I always say there's never a silly question, there's never a silly answer, unless what has to be done. Thank you, Sonia, so much for joining. Sonia, I think your mute is your mic. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Blade, and thank you, Robin, for being with us at our legislative committee meeting. Here we talk about how we can give or teach our parents how to use their voices effectively in receiving the services, whether it's from OPWDD, whether it's from the Department of Education, whether it's from OMH, where most of our clients, our individuals who has a intellectual disability or other disability, is able to voice their opinions and share. Again, yes, it's always trying to get parents out. Even each of us as a provider, you know, if a person wants something that badly, they will find the time to be there. You know, we always say that you can lead a horse to the water, you can't force them to drink. We can provide enough things. One of the things I notice in my line of work that I'm doing, you see most parents when crisis occurs. And I always say, when you show up in crisis, how can we bring you down from that crisis? What can we do? What strategies can be done? So it's hard because you know what? Their lives, everyone have challenges in their lives. They may have more. Strategies are given. You know, are they utilizing strategies to help? And everyone's case is different and unique, and we have to respect that. Because I used to be like, "What? Why aren't they coming out?" And I realize sometimes it's the timing, the time schedule. But you know what? You cannot please everyone. If it's important for them, they will show up. It's important. Whatever you have, and if they need it, they will show up. So, and by having this meeting, I really love having the conversation about what are we going to do, because I'm an action person. I don't like to talk, I do it. You know, I remember when I first told people I was opening this organization, like, blah, blah, blah. I did it, whether I got the support from OPWD or not, and I know I'm getting it. It's fine. You know, I don't wait on people to give me what I need. I make sure the action needs to be done. I will do it. And yes, we do have to, Chris, and no matter what, we do have to remember the past sometimes, because when I speak to Miss Goody and she's telling me the things that she goes through, and she's 93 years old, her daughter is 68, and people will tell her, oh, your child will not survive, which is most of the stories we hear from our families. Sometimes we have to remember, because if you don't raise your voice and say what you need, nothing can be done. Because no one wants to go back to that situation. But sometimes the families we deal with, they seem as though that is the situation they want to go back to, because they're not using their voices to come out to the meetings and speak up. And when crisis occur, then they call us and screaming and call the OPWD, say the agency is not doing this, that, and the other. So they have to be involved the same way. We all have crazy schedules. We all have a life. We all have things to do. So what I'm going to do,
I agree with what you're saying.
thank you. One of the things that we have to do is to get onto making sure a date so we can do that mini session. And I'm not a person, you don't need to do a 2 hours, an hour session for that. We can schedule a time for like the 45 minutes to an hour. I can Zoom and we can create a flyer and send it out. All I pray and hope when I send a flyer that if that seems important to you, you will show up. I cannot say if, when, then, or not. If it is important to you, it is your child, it's information to help you and your child. That's why I do what I do. I do my forums, I do my stuff because I inform people. I invite people who are the heads so they can teach me and tell me what they have out there so I can relate it to the families that I serve. All right. So that is, Chris, your hand up.
No, I was testing it. It was just working
Okay,
again.
thank you.
I fixed the
So it's
problem.
working.
But
Yeah.
there is one question to ask. Does Angela or Robert Mooney have any questions they want to add?
Yes. Thank you, Chris.
Because I just want to make sure.
I just joined,
Good,
so I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay, thank
good
you, Robert.
morning. Yeah, good morning. I have no questions also.
Thank you.
You
Thank you
seem to be
guys for
doing
being
a great
here.
job. You seem to be doing a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, we love what we do, as usual, as long as we can inform. It's just about educating and informing. And when parents really understand the benefits of participation and getting the information, life can be so much better. Yesterday I went to a IEP meeting with a parent because we haven't been, we've been doing Zoom, so we went. And it was such a difference being there and the parent, everyone sitting around that table. There is a camaraderie. At first it may seem tense, but then when you start talking and realizing we are only human and our needs for our children can be so much. Sometimes it's really out and far-fetched, but time you get the right strategies and the persons who say, listen, let's take it down a little notch. This can be done if this is done. When this is happening, this can happen too. So I hope that as we continue this legislative committee meeting, we come with strong points and action so we're able to reach our families the best we can. All we can do is just throw it out there. Make sure the providers, everyone knows what days our meeting, the time. One of the things to do a survey is time. What is the best time? Should it be an evening time? Everyone is at home. The kids are in their bed or the kids are running around or have dinner time. If it's a 7 o'clock time or 8 o'clock time, which is a better time to do that session so parents can understand, how do I introduce myself? What do I say? So we have these legislative branches, and I like Ellen's thing. If you can have it where people can still participate because they're really running in and running out. How much are they saying? How much can you say as that parent? But at least when we have the next brunch, they see you on your child's picture, whether they want to remember or not, your face was there. And also, too, we don't need to have them to talk 101 times because I get tired of that. What are you doing in your district for our community? That's it. We don't need to have a half an hour talking of that. 1 second, one sentence to add, one question you ask them and they give you okay, we are focusing on making sure that your monies are put into OPWDD or OMH or wherever OPWDD and what it is you're doing for legislation for our families, But again, you as that parent, as we do the sessions, the mini sessions with you all, hopefully it will be impactful and people can ask questions. So I want to, so Ms. Mooney and Ms. Blaze, so this is what we do, we do the second Wednesday of every month from 11 to 12, where the committee comes together and we discuss what's happening. How can our parents learn to approach? How can they approach the legislator, letting them know who they are, that they have a child with disability, specify the disability, specify what agency their children are utilizing or using, whatever services, and what challenges they are having and how they can support legislation by providing the resources for our families. And as we go on, we just learn day by day. I believe in small steps because it's small steps we have to take to climb taller mountains. So I really, anyone else have anything to say? Because I like to be on time by 12. I just missed my yoga session with the family. So they realize the second Wednesday is the yoga sessions for the families.
Lucina, this is Chris. We do need to remind everyone that you and Marie are going to join with us in November.
Oh yes, to talk about doing this, yeah.
Yeah, I think it is important that we do want to remind everyone in November on our third Tuesday. Okay, whatever. The chat. There was a question in the chat for you, ladies.
Okay.
At the same time, as I'm trying to say is November 3rd Tuesday. As Lucina mentioned earlier, we are going to be the advisory council will be doing this in person at the Grand Army Plaza and virtual. As Lucina mentioned a little bit earlier, Lucina, I think this would be a good time to mention a little bit as well, since Debbie is right on the top on her phone. Rochelle, I think this will be something. Thank you, Rochelle, putting that thumb. At least we know it's working. I think this is a good time to mention this because since we are going to soon come into budget season, and also it's very important, please everyone, don't forget to vote. If you do not register yet, you still have until October 26th, and it is located on both councils' websites. Lucina and Debbie and Rochelle.
Okay, thank you so much. Go ahead, Rochelle.
No, I just saw Ellen's comment in the chat about
Nice.
using a video. I think it's a fabulous idea. It's, of course, then you could have to also, one thing we have to think about in addition, whether it's live or in a video, is translation. So we need to make sure that's on the agenda. But videos are good because people can watch them when it's convenient. But part of the issue is to get them so excited that they actually want to take time out and click on that 10-minute video. So I think, but I think doing a video that we can, if we can do a good one and share it with the other councils, I think, about advocacy, I think that would be fabulous.
Even I like run it at a meeting, a quick clip on it. And also too, and as we're doing it, we get our people who are part of the committee doing it. You want to have familiar faces also that relate, a parent, a person who is doing it, because you want to get to the individual. Love it, Ellen, high tech Ellen, love it, love it. It's like, that's the new wave, because we've been doing I've been invited to do a lot of podcasting and stuff now, and talking about our program. I'm doing one. Someone's going to take me in a few next, I think it's a Friday, and talking about your program and talking about the things we're doing. Because listen, people are quick visual. I'm visual. I'm a very visual person. That's a great idea, Ellen. And let's see how that doesn't have to affect any budget. If we get someone who can do it for us and who can do editing and do all of that, I make it easier for the parents of yes, also, for everyone. Let's talk about, I think when you talk about advocacy for family, you don't want to be lingering it. It's just talking about how you as a parent can introduce yourself to a legislator. Just getting to know you. It is so important, that is amazing. And also the thing with translation, we haven't figured out how all that can be done also. You always start up with the English first and then you figure out.
Lucina, this is Chris. In the new technology system, there is a program that does translation. It is there and it is available. But I just want to bring to your attention, Angela Blaze has her hand up. And
she just raised it. Thank you, Angela.
No. She had it up and then it went down and now she's back. So I just want to get her attention.
Thank you.
Good morning, Lucina, and everybody else on the podcast, even the podcast, on the meeting. I have a quick question. You might have discussed it already, but does your legislative program reach out to like the CCOs? Because what I've been finding, and this goes for all of our reinvestment agents, the care managers do not seem to know the correct way to do anything anymore. You have one care manager today, and tomorrow is going to be somebody else. Mm-hmm. So the families are kind of left stranded, especially like, I do the reimbursement. So I'm curious to know if you guys reach out to the CCOs so that the care managers can get the correct training and understand what can be, how they can actually assist the families. That was my question. I thought that made sense.
It does make sense, Angela. It's so true, because a lot of families are complaining about, I speak to a CCO today and tomorrow I call as a new person. Because people are not staying in the job and whether they're going to fulfill the needs of the families. Yes, we do send out. One of the things right now I work strongly with is ACA, because we have like a quarterly meeting with them, because most of my families who have parents who are using that, whether it's ACA or Alliance or whatever, I can't remember the name right now. But we meet like quarterly with them to make sure our parents are getting information.
It's ACA Alliance.
ACA Alliance, right. Thank you, Chris. So I know the ACA in my head.
And Debbie also has something to add as well as Rochelle.
We had our meeting this morning from 10 to 11 where I had CCOs on and I brought up about issues for the ADM reimbursement, and also that a lot of the care managers don't completely understand how to fill out and they don't even know how to help the families do the justification. They do cut and paste, and that was also brought up very well by Rochelle, and I appreciate that. So sorry you missed it, Angela, because I know we emailed this to you 3 or 4 times. I don't understand. We would have loved to have had you there because we did it from 10 to 11.
Thank you, Debbie. And also, Angela, we try and combine meetings. So at least everyone will try and get the information together so we can be more effective in sending out information. But I know one thing I can say, these committees that we've been having, these new committees are really passionate and they're really working hard to make sure information is disseminated as much as we can. And I'm excited about this getting back into the legislative piece. And I'm sorry Maria couldn't make it this morning. She's so amazing as well in providing information. So we have a really good team, and I'm so excited about what transformations or changes can be done. It doesn't happen right away, but it's gonna happen. So I do appreciate every single one of you being here today, taking your hour from your schedule, everybody's back in their schedule to to provide information so our families can get the appropriate and right information so we can help them the best way we can. Ellen, thank you again for your input. And, Miss Sonia, thank you for being here. Debbie, Rochelle, I really appreciate it. And all of you. And Kia, hi Kia, how are you? Kia, where are you from? What organization? Or are you a parent? I'm seeing a Kia. I know Chris can unmute Kia. I know let's ask her where she's from. But even though, thank you for listening and being a part of what we have here, and always be willing to share information. No questions, I see.
I'm sorry to interrupt again, but Angela Blake's hand up again.
Go ahead, Angela.
I wanted to respond to Ms. Greif's comment about, not being at the meeting. Unfortunately, we can't be at every single meeting, and I do try to get on to as much as I can. I do work for OPWDD, so sometimes it's impossible for me to be on every meeting. But thank you for reaching out to the CCOs and letting them know, what has to be done for the reimbursement. And again, you can always refer them to Robin or myself, and we can always assist them just like you do, Ms. Greif. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Angela, for saying that. Yeah, we are, we're required to attend the Family Support Advisory Council meetings, but the committee meetings, if we're available, we can come. But, we are working very diligently to do the best that we can with, especially with the reimbursement applications that we're getting, which are every single day, and it's very, very time consuming. Because when things are lacking and they don't have the right information, we have to go back and forth with the agencies, which is, as you know, extremely time consuming. But we want to get this money to the families. So,
thank you so much. Listen, I know we all have a lot.
I just want to say, Angela, I totally understand how many meetings and how many things you have. I just wanted you to know what happened. Do I understand? Of course. You and Robin have a very large plate that's so full, and we understand when you can come and when you can't. It wasn't saying, oh, why didn't you? We understood that, but I want you to know that I do send you the information, and Chris does.
Thank
we always
you.
make sure you know, because I do this for you and Robin. And yes, I send families and I tell the CCOs if there's problems, they need to contact you. But I also have said as a regular, like a broken record, not to blame you or Robin because of what the changes were made. I always let them know it was done at central office in Albany, not by you. And the part I'm doing is just to advocate to get more things off the non-allowable list, and also to make sure the forms and everything are easy for the care managers with the parents to fill them out. Everything else, they need to contact you, and I do, and we constantly give them both your email address, Andrew, as well as Robin Mooney's, and I'm hoping they're contacting you. If they're not, I'm sorry, I just do the best I can too as a parent volunteer. So I was not upset you couldn't make it this morning. I like when you're here, because then we can actually, if there's a problem, I can ask you to get on and say something. So that's it. Just want you to know.
So thank you all. I know it's like 2 minutes after. Thank you so much for attending, taking your time. It's always amazing to leave with an action plan. Again, we will be seeing each other in November in the library in person. We can have a quick, talk about what we discussed here and see how we can do the training with them and make sure that they are getting the right information. So I'll let you know also to what the thing I'm having in November with the Department of Education with this whole transition, because a lot of my families are going through that crisis by the kids leaving school early and placements. So I do things to inform our organization, our parents, and we gladly like to share it also as the things are being done. So thank you all so much. Ellen, I love your YouTube. We'll figure out that I have some people I've been working with who does a lot of media and stuff. Let's see if they can volunteer their time, because everything is money. So thank you all. Have an amazing weekend and enjoy. Bye.
Thank you.
You're
Everyone,
welcome.
have a great weekend. Easy.